Hey guys, Karen here, and in today's video I wanted to answer a question from one of our members. I mentioned that I'd do a video on it. So this is a question Niam, hopefully I've pronounced your name right, Niam, has asked, and it is, how do you know your horse is in pain? I'm very curious about your experiences. We see our guy every day and know his facial expressions very well. Now and then an unexpected lameness presents out of the blue. Am I missing something I should be picking up on? Okay, so let's answer this question. Firstly, if there's a unexpected lameness coming up out of the blue, that's a definite sign that something is not right and he is feeling some pain or discomfort. The only reason he's going to be lame on a leg is because it is painful to weight bear on that leg. So in that situation, there is a definite sign of pain and you need to investigate further what's causing this unexpected lameness. We'd have to go into it more to work out. It depends, this is something that you would need to talk to your vet about, vet, body worker. Normally with lamenesses, and particularly if it's reoccurring, I'd be looking more at the veterinary approach, getting a vet out and doing a flexion test, having a look over him and seeing if there's anything that's standing out and going from there. Okay, so going back to your question, how do you know your horse is in pain? I've written down some points because horses obviously can't talk to us. They can't tell us that they're sore, they're uncomfortable in words. So we have to be a bit of a detective and really learn our skills and how to read them and what signs and symptoms to look out for. Horses are prey animals and they do hide pain. So sometimes we don't know our horse is in pain. We can't see any significant signs that the horse is in pain, yet they may be. So this is where we need to increase our skills in certain aspects to identify whether our horse is uncomfortable or not uncomfortable. I wrote them down here so I'll remember, because when I'm talking on video, I get a little bit sidetracked. So the first thing is, you need to actually understand your basic skills of knowing your horse's vital signs. So the vital signs are respiration, the normal respiratory, what your horse's normal respiration should be, heart rate or pulse, and so we've got respiration, heart rate, temperature. Okay, so what a normal horse's temperature should be, an adult horse if we're working with Off The Track Thoroughbreds, and also mucous membranes, checking the gum for the colour and the texture. And I think they're the four things I've covered there. Yep, so your respiration, temperature, pulse, and mucous membranes. So it's really important to educate ourselves on what the normal level should be. In racing, in many stables that I've worked in racing, we would check the horse's temperature every day because they may look fine, but then we take the temperature and it's increased. And also too, every horse, they're individuals, so we get to know what a normal horse's temperature is. And then all of a sudden it might be higher one morning. So we know there's something going on. So it's important to regularly check your horse's vital signs, so that you can come out one day and go, oh, he looks a little bit off. I'm going to check his temperature, check his pulse, his heart rate, and also the mucous membranes and your respiration. Another, just an example, is I was doing my client's horses, and they've got a little pony stallion. And I looked at him and I noticed he just looked a little bit dull. So he was standing there. Because I've worked with horses for so long, through experience and education, I can pick up the signs quite well now. And I thought, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is, I didn't have a thermometer on me because I was at my client's place, but I could notice, I looked at his respiration and I could tell that he had some rapid breathing. So rapid breathing and increasing breathing is generally a sign of pain or something's happening. I also felt the pulse because he's a metabolic pony. I checked the pulse. on both fetlocks on his front feet, and he had a pulse in his feet, but that was a little bit separate from what was actually going on with him, because I did notice he had a cough as well. And he was, I'm trying to think now, was he looking around at his tummy? I did get some videos of this, but I was thinking that he was a bit colicky. So I let the owners know, but what happened is he had a bit of choke. He was doing a little bit of coughing and he had a little bit of choke, but you can see from the choke, he got himself quite stressed. His breathing increased. The pulse on his feet was something separate because he is metabolic and he has had, he's been sort of teetering on the edge of founder. So there's another example of me just coming in and observing him. He looked a little bit dull. He was standing there, with his head sort of a bit dull in his eye, and you can see a worried eye on, I could see a worried eye on his face, which takes me to my other point is the pain. So learning signs of pain or conflict or something in your horse, which goes to the pain scale ethograms. So we've got two scales. There's the Grimace scale, pain scale ethogram, and also Sue Dyson's pain scale, facial pain scale ethogram, and also 24 behaviours of the ridden horse under saddle. What I'm going to do is, after this video over the next few days, I will go through each of the points that I'm picking out today, and we'll go into look deeper into each one. So we'll talk about the vital signs, what the normal levels are and how you can check them. And we'll also talk about the pain scale ethograms. So your pain scale ethograms, research-based, evidence-based research on behaviours and facial expressions of animals, and we're talking horses in particular, when they're in pain or conflict. So for example, with the little pony that I noticed, I could see his eye looked, the eye will go into a more triangle shape. Their blinking is less as well, so they'll often be decrease their blinking. So I won't go into too much detail here because we'll talk about it in another video. But so other than obvious signs of pain, which is your lameness, your colic symptoms, things going wrong. So colic symptoms, sorry, my laptop is binging away here, messages coming through. Typical things like your colic symptoms, the horse is rolling or looking around at their tummy and pawing at the ground. Labyrinthitis, where they've got their legs stretched out in front or they're lying down, tying up, they can't move. So your obvious signs, your horse is in pain. We go down to now, your horse comes out, you come out and the horse looks a little bit dull. Check their vital signs, so your respiration, temperature, pulse, heart rate, and the mucous membranes. Then our third point was the pain scale ethograms, learning the pain scale ethograms and what are the signs of a horse that's in discomfort, pain, and we'll talk more into detail about that in another video. And I pointed, so I'm very much a person who will go over my horses every day and learn what is normal to them. So I'm going here, my fourth point, I've got bits and pieces of notes written everywhere here. How does your horse's body feel? So I've noticed over the last few weeks, my horse has got very sick, but I will just feel over their body. So I really love massage and body work and things like that. And if you get to know your horse's body, you'll feel tight muscles, loose muscles where they feel really, nice and supple and loose. And all of a sudden you might come out one day and they're really tight in their neck, or over their back they look a bit spasmy, or you might feel over their rump and there's a really hard knot, or they might dip away, you feel over their back. I always like to feel over their back, their spine. with Mandy, for instance, one of my horses. I looked at her the other day because she just hasn't, I've got some videos of talking about how she hasn't been right. Something's been not right with her, and I'm trying to work out what's been happening. But I felt her, I know she gets a bit metabolic. And I just felt it, looked at her neck the other day, and I've done a video on it. Remind me to share it and I'll show you. But she is just on the left side of her neck, just sort of really tight, sort of bulgy type of muscles. To be honest, I have no idea what's happening with her. So I'm going a little bit more random here in how I can work out what's going on and what may be happening with my horse. Like, she doesn't like to be touched, but you can feel when your muscles are so sore, whether she's had a fall or something's happened or she's got a bit of whiplash, something's happened that has really created some absolutely really tight sort of swollen muscles on the left-hand side of her neck. She doesn't want to be touched there. Another thing is, if you feel overheat, you might feel down your horse's neck, get to know their muscles, the texture of their muscles. Your horse might be generally tight through their neck muscle, and something you want to address through your retraining and that, and working them in a nice healthy posture or some body work. But you might come out one day and they're extra tight, or they might have some swelling on their chest. So really get to know your horse's body, feel over them daily when you're grooming them. Be very observant in how the muscles feel, and where you know, educate yourself on what they're feeling like underneath their skin, if that makes sense. And with massage and body work, it's really about getting your hands really used to what you're feeling underneath the skin. So really get to know your horse's body. Check their legs for any bumps or anything like that. Another example, Tommy, I noticed on his off front. I felt down his off front the other day, and there was heat behind his knee and just quite a little bit puffy, like something you would see at just visibly looking. But I could feel heat down the back of his tendon and to the sides. He's been through a lot. If you know my story, my horses got really sick. And so they've got some ongoing issues that we're working through. So I'm very particular with looking at them. And Tommy too, when I pick up his feet, another thing, he can't, like, he doesn't want to hold up his front feet. He struggles to balance on his hind legs. So that's another example. Your horse might be really good at picking up their feet, and all of a sudden they don't want to stand on three legs while you're picking up one of their front feet. They're shifting weight behind. So that's a sign that something's going on where they're not comfortable balancing on their four legs, on their three legs. What else? So yeah, basically getting to know their body and what is normally normal for them. And if your horse is displaying something like they're not wanting to balance on the three legs and they're shifting their hind legs, then something's going on, and that's what you have to delve into. What are my other notes? So, and also too, because horses are so hard to read often about whether we know something, whether they're in pain, particularly gastric ulceration. We know from studies that particularly racehorses, up to 90-95% of thoroughbred racehorses have gastric ulceration. Some of those you wouldn't see, they're not displaying any symptoms. And they can have really glowing coats and everything. So this is where really looking at, this is going down to your horse management. If you're feeding your horse a grain diet, particularly these commercial complete feeds, generally they're really bad for your horses. And they're going to cause inflammation, some hindgut acidosis and things like that. A lot of them have some really nasty ingredients in them, particularly in the States. If you're watching this from the States, there's even artificial colours and flavours. There's a lot of mill run and mill mix, a lot of fillers that are very inflammatory for the horse's gut. Horses have a very sensitive digestive system. They're very prone to gastric ulceration. hindgut acidosis. So just in general, to try and avoid any digestive discomfort, because digestive discomfort can come out in a huge range of symptoms, from being girthy when they're saddling up to, not wanting to go forward, napping, to sometimes you just don't see anything. They might be windsuckers. So really it's basically looking at your horse management system, and I'm really passionate about equine nutrition because I'm a bit horrified at the commercial complete feeds out there. So go back and look at what is the horse's natural diet that's going to keep them in optimal health, which is grain-free. Unless you're really have a horse, a thoroughbred racehorse or an eventer or a horse that's competing at a high level, you do not need to feed grain. Really be diligent and looking at the ingredients on your horses, on the feed that you're feeding, looking for any fillers or artificial flavors, molasses. You want your horse to be a grain-free. My recommendation is grain-free, unless they're at like they're a performance horse competing at a sport that they really need that muscle glycogen, those glycogen stores for energy. And lots of forage, low starch, low sugar forage. And I recommend a really good gut health supplement. I think every horse needs to be on a good gut health supplement. There's a lot of not good ones out there, so we can talk about that further down the line, and what I like in gut health supplements. And the last one, so just making sure you've got ad lib forage, the horse's diet is low sugar, because trying to avoid any problems with the horse's digestive system is really important, because often horses will scope for gastric ulceration and they've shown no signs. As I said, they hide pain, and we don't know, more often than not, we don't know they're in pain. They're very stoic, they're brave animals. So we have to be a bit of a detective, increase our knowledge in what to look for. The only other one I was going to say, I mentioned back there dehydration. You can check the skin and see if your horse is dehydrated. That's down underneath vital signs. There was one other one I was going to mention. Obviously signs if they're not eating, or their eating or drinking changes. Good to know how much your horse drinks. I think I've covered everything. I was just going to say another horse, that one of my other horses, I noticed when I felt underneath his legs, it looks like a racing injury. If they don't like being touched somewhere, there's something's going on. If your horse doesn't like to be touched around the girth area, this horse in particular, Bear doesn't like to be touched underneath his right front, his offside fetlock, and then I can feel sort of quite stringy muscles there. So he's got an injury which probably has some scar tissue there. So it's being a detective, if you know what I mean. Really teaching yourself and increasing the knowledge in being able to read your horse. So I won't keep this video too much longer, because what I'll do is in the next videos, I'll do some following videos on this one where we can go into detail on what the vital signs are, what the normal levels are, and how to check them. We'll talk about the pain scale ethograms, and then we will, I think I've done, we'll cover those two anyway. So hope that helps. Let me know in the comments if this helps, and look, I'll do some follow-up videos, and we'll go into detail with the vital signs and also the pain scale ethogram. Okay, bye.